Have you ever asked yourself why? As people grow older and more mature, they accumulate more anxieties and afflictions. When we were young, joy seemed to come from very simple things: a kite flying in the blue sky, a hearty laugh with friends, or just a warm hug from our parents. But the longer we live, the heavier our hearts feel. Unfulfilled desires, incomplete expectations, and accumulated losses and hurts in our hearts make us feel that this life is just a continuous chain of suffering. Is it because we haven't learned how to let go? Haven't learned how to keep our minds at peace? Deep down, everyone yearns for a peaceful place for their soul. But paradoxically, we always seek that serenity outside ourselves. We think that having enough money will make us happy, achieving status will bring peace of mind, and a fulfilling love will end our loneliness. Yet, no matter how much we hold in our hands, there are times when we feel a nameless void. This is because true happiness is not about how much we have, but whether our minds are at ease. The more we try to hold on, the more we fear losing. The more we expect, the more disappointed we become. The more tirelessly we search, the more restless our minds become, like a bird without a landing spot. Try looking at nature to understand that every river eventually flows into the great sea. White clouds drift across the sky, never holding their old shape. Flowers bloom and then wither. Winds come and then go. All purely follow the law of impermanence. Only humans insist on holding on wanting everything to remain unchanging. And then, when life shifts, their hearts are torn. If we could learn to live like the clouds, like the wind, free to come and go, calmly drifting along with the flow of conditions, then suffering and afflictions would gradually fade. Sometimes it is attachment itself that binds the soul. We get angry with someone and hold on to that anger in our hearts. We regret an old love and let the lingering memories torment us. We want everything to go our way, and when things go wrong, our hearts crumble. All of these things are like adding burdens to our shoulders. While life is inherently short, and every breath taken cannot be retrieved, why don't we learn to let go so our hearts can be free? You can try it right now. Sit down, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. Let the cool, fresh air enter your chest, then gently exhale, releasing all the worries in your heart. Imagine that affliction as a cloud. Exhale once, the cloud disperses, the sky clears. Just a moment of pause like that, and you will realize that peace has never been far away. It is right in your breath, in every moment. We know how to return to ourselves. Perhaps the journey to finding serenity doesn't begin with changing the whole world, but simply with sitting down, listening to our inner voice, and letting go of unnecessary things. That is the path the Buddha taught millennia ago. Letting go does not mean abandoning everything, but choosing to keep what nourishes the soul and allowing useless attachments to fall away like autumn leaves. So, if you are willing, let the channel Fat Phap Lin Ung, Responsive Buddhist Teachings, join you on this journey. See this as a quiet interlude in a turbulent life. Let these words be like a small stream flowing into your heart so that together we can rediscover stillness and touch the peace that is always present within each person. And before we go deeper, I invite you to take a deep breath in and a gentle breath out, so we can begin this journey back to serenity together. Perhaps in our daily lives, each of us has at least once stood before a natural scene and pondered human existence. Looking at a flower blooming in the early morning sun, we feel a gentle joy. But just a few days later, the flower withers. Its petals fall to the earth, leaving a bare branch. Looking at the white clouds floating lightly across the sky, we see them freely drifting. But soon they vanish into the void, leaving behind a deep blue sky. Looking at the river flowing endlessly to the sea, never holding back a single drop of water, we realize that all things pass through each other's lives like a traveler who stops for a moment and then continues on their journey. And it is in this impermanence that we learn a great lesson. This life is not for us to possess, but for us to experience, to live fully in every moment. People often suffer, not because life is inherently harsh, but because we try to cling to what doesn't truly belong to us. A love that is faded, we refuse to let go, so our hearts continue to bleed. An opportunity that is past, we regret endlessly, thereby missing the present. A careless word someone uttered, we hold on to in our hearts, allowing anger to become a chain binding ourselves. Suffering, in reality, is not external, but lies in our attachment. It's like a traveler carrying a heavy bag full of rocks. The further they walk, the more tired they become, yet they never think of putting the bag down to walk lightly. In Buddhist philosophy, impermanence is the nature of all phenomena. Everything in life changes, comes and goes. Nothing is eternal. But people always live as if they can hold on to everything forever. We want love not to change, youth not to fade, careers to always be stable, happiness to remain as it was at the beginning. This illusion of permanence leads to disappointment when life shifts. We want to possess, but all things belong to us only for a fleeting moment. That is why the more we cling, the more we suffer. The more we try to hold on, the more insecure we feel. Imagine you walk into a vibrant garden where flowers are blooming. If you simply walk in, breathe in the fragrance, and admire the colors, your heart will be filled with joy. But if you want to pick all the flowers to take home, the garden will no longer be complete, and your joy will also fade. The flowers will wither. The fragrance will dissipate, and all you will be left with is regret. So, isn't true happiness derived from experience and appreciation rather than possession? The story of Ms. Huang, a woman in her mid-30s in Hanoi, is a vivid testament to this lesson. In her youth, Ms. Huang had a marriage many admired. On her wedding day, she wore a pristine white wedding dress, flowing and sparkling like a dream. To her, that dress was not just a garment, but a symbol of happiness, of faith in a complete life. After the wedding, she carefully stored it, treating it as a treasure, an unchanging testament to love. But life is not as we wish. The marriage gradually fractured and eventually broke apart. In the days following the divorce, Ms. Huang often sat silently in her small room, opening the closet and looking at the wedding dress. Each time, Her heart tightened. Memories flooded back like sharp knives. Instead of a sweet keepsake, it became a chain binding her to her pain. She couldn't throw it away because she thought that discarding it meant discarding a part of her youth. But keeping it meant being tormented by the past every day. For years, she lived in this torment, unable to let go. One day, an acquaintance told her about a poor girl in her hometown who was about to get married but couldn't afford a wedding dress. Miss Huang pondered this a lot. That night, she sat before her closet, looking at the dress she had clung to for so many years. And suddenly, she burst into tears. The tears no longer flowed from old pain, but from a realization. She had imprisoned herself in the past for too long, allowing an inanimate object to hold her heart captive. And for the first time in many years, she decided to take it out, fold it neatly, and send it to the girl. On the day she gave it away, she felt a strange breeze blow through her soul, light and serene, as if a huge stone had been lifted from her shoulders. The image of the wedding dress was no longer a chain, but became a joy, because it continued on with another person on a new journey. And it was only when she let go that she truly regained freedom for her soul. Ms. Huang's story is perhaps the story of many of us. How many times do we hold on to things that hurt our hearts simply because we don't dare to let go? How many times do we think that possession is holding on to happiness? But in reality, holding on only makes us tired. When we let go, it doesn't mean we lose something, but that we are opening up a new space for peace to enter. So what is the lesson here? This life is not a place for us to accumulate or store things, but a journey for us to experience and grow. We are like travelers passing through this world, stopping at the inn of life, and then continuing on. A wise traveler does not carry too much luggage, because the heavier the luggage, the slower the steps. A happy person is not one who owns much, but one who knows how to enjoy every moment of being present. If every day that passes, we know how to cherish every moment, whether it's a hot cup of tea in the morning, a loved one's smile, or a gentle breeze outside the garden, life will naturally be full of happiness. But if we always think that we must hold on to a lot, that we need more to be at ease, then our entire lives will be spent chasing a dream that will never be complete. Live like a carefree traveler who passes through, observes, and smiles. When flowers bloom, appreciate the flowers. When they wither, appreciate the leaves. When it rains, listen to the rain. When the sun shines, welcome the light. Everything comes and goes like a breeze through our hair, like clouds drifting across the sky. If we don't cling, suffering is just like a visitor who comes and then leaves. And deep down, true serenity is not about how many things we hold in our hands, but about how many unnecessary things we can let go of. Only then can our minds become still. And in that stillness, we can touch true peace. Have you ever sat on a quiet afternoon, watching the clouds drift across the sky, and wondered why your mind cannot be as light as those clouds? Clouds come and go, never holding a shape, never resenting a gust of wind that pushes them. But the human heart is the opposite. It clings tightly to every joy, every word, every glance, every gain and loss in life, so that the mind is never at peace. It is precisely because we refuse to let go that afflictions cling to us like shadows, following us everywhere. The more we try to push them away, the more entangled we become. The more we resist, the more we hurt. In Buddhist teachings, the root cause of all suffering is greed, anger, and delusion. Tham, Sun, Si. Greed makes us want more, wanting to hold on to what is inherently impermanent. Anger makes us furious when things don't go our way, resentful when we are hurt. Delusion makes us confused, unable to recognize the true nature of life, mistakenly believing we can hold on to youth, love, or fame forever. These three roots are like three smoldering fires in the mind. Even a small breeze can ignite them, burning away our inherent peace. When greed arises, we are not content with the present, always chasing what we don't yet have. When anger flares, we let it lead us, hurting ourselves and others. When delusion obscures our perception, we live in illusion, creating more suffering for ourselves. All these things begin with the mind's refusal to let go, its refusal to relax. In everyday life, we see this clearly in small things. Some people are happy all day with just one compliment, but lose sleep for many nights when they hear one criticism. Some buy an expensive item, cherishing it like a treasure, but then a small scratch causes them heartbreak. Some love someone and turn that love into possession. When the other person doesn't reciprocate, resentment arises. When we cling to praise and criticism, we entrust our happiness to the world's tongues. When we cling to material things, we bind ourselves in a cycle of craving. When we cling to emotions, we place our entire heart in someone else's hands, and thus suffering becomes inevitable. Tuan, a 28-year-old man working at a company in Hanoi, is a prime example. In his colleagues' eyes, Tuan was diligent and capable, but his temperament seemed volatile. Every time his boss praised him, he worked enthusiastically, even feeling lighthearted for the entire week. But with just one criticism, he immediately fell into depression, constant worrying, insomnia, and loss of appetite. His life was like a leaf in the wind, sometimes flying high with a word of praise, sometimes falling with just a word of criticism. He gradually realized he was too tired of living that way, but didn't know how to escape. One day, Tuan's friend invited him to a one-day meditation retreat. Initially, he thought it was just a novel experience, but unexpectedly, that day opened another door for his soul. During the meditation session, as he sat quietly listening to his breath, the teacher explained to the assembly, "Praise and criticism are like passing winds. If you cling to them, you only stir up storms in your heart." In that moment, Tuan felt suddenly enlightened. He remembered how many days and months he had allowed others' words to control his mood, turning himself into a slave to praise and criticism. And for the first time, he practiced letting go, practicing seeing praise and criticism merely as sounds passing by his ears. In reality, letting go doesn't mean being indifferent or unfeeling, but maintaining a balanced mind, not allowing joy or sorrow to overly dominate. When praised, we acknowledge it, but do not become arrogant. When criticized, we reflect on ourselves, but do not become self-deprecating. It's like a lake. If every small pebble stirs it up, the lake will never be still. But if we know how to observe calmly, waves come and go, and the lake returns to its tranquil state. In meditation, it is often said that when one thought is released, the mind naturally opens. Thought, here, refers to the thought of attachment. Each time we can let go of a thought, our mind gains more serenity. It's like a clenched hand. The tighter you hold, the more tired you become. Only when you release it do you feel light. Letting go, here, means letting go of clinging, not letting go of life. We still live, still love, still work, but there is no longer a craving to possess, no longer a fear of loss. Those who have lived too much for praise and criticism will understand this clearly. Praise is like sweet honey, making us intoxicated, but also easily making us complacent and self-satisfied. Criticism is like a bitter taste that can hurt us. But if we know how to reflect, it is an opportunity for us to grow. However, suffering appears when we cling too much to both. A wise person knows that neither praise nor criticism changes their true nature. A lotus, whether it grows in mud, is praised or criticized, is still a lotus and still radiates its fragrance. People often say that one of the great sufferings in life is being swayed by public opinion. But in reality, we are the ones who allow that to happen. If we know how to keep our minds steady, then praise and criticism are just like rain falling outside the eaves. We sit inside the house, listening, without getting wet. If we pay too much attention, even a single drop of water can make us tremble. So the cause of affliction lies in the mind's refusal to let go. The mind is like a room. The more cluttered it is with unnecessary things, the more suffocating it becomes. When we remove things, the room becomes airy, and the mind also feels lighter. Each day, if we know how to let go a little, letting go of unnecessary cravings, letting go of useless anger, letting go of future worries, then gradually our minds will become expansive. Life is inherently short. Every breath in and out cannot be reclaimed. Do we need to let our hearts be heavy because of a word of praise or criticism, because of a trivial matter, because of something impermanent? Isn't walking lightly the way to fully enjoy this journey? If you quiet your mind, try sitting still for a moment, breathing slowly and silently, telling yourself, let go. You will feel a gentle energy spread, just as when you drop a stone into a river. The water naturally flows, without needing any effort. When the mind is willing to let go, suffering naturally falls away. And when suffering falls away, peace appears. No need to seek it far away. After all, human life is just a short journey. If we keep filling it with afflictions due to greed, anger, and delusion, that journey will be tiring. But if we know how to let go, how to live with a serene mind, then every step will become a joy. Every moment will become a miracle. And in that way, we will see that happiness has never been far from us. We just need the mind to open up, to let go. Have you ever looked up at the sky on a rainy day and wondered why the rain keeps falling, whether you wish it would stop or not? When the rain comes, we cannot hold it. When the rain goes, we cannot stop it. Life is also like that rain. There are things we never wish for, but they still happen. There are unexpected events that cause us suffering, making us resist, making us struggle. But the more we struggle, the more exhausted we become. And then one day, we realize that acceptance is not surrender, but letting go of useless resistance to see the lesson that life is delivering. In Buddhism, acceptance is not a weakness, but a strength. That strength helps us pass through suffering without collapsing, pass through adversity without losing faith. Like a river that encounters a rock blocking its path, it doesn't stop to complain, nor does it try to break through. It just quietly flows around, embracing the rock, and continues its journey to the great sea. Our lives are the same. The rocks of suffering always appear unexpectedly. If we know how to accept, we will learn to embrace them, flow around them, and continue to drift along in serenity. Some people think that acceptance means giving up, that acceptance means abandoning willpower. But in reality, acceptance is the courage to look directly at the truth, without denying, without avoiding, without judging. When a storm arrives, we cannot tell the rain to stop, but we can open an umbrella or find shelter. That is acceptance. Acceptance is acknowledging the reality that exists, but at the same time, choosing the most peaceful attitude possible to live with it. The channel, Phat Phap Linh Ung, remembers the story of Uncle Nam, a street vendor over 60 years old. Every day, he carried 2 heavy baskets through the city streets, selling simple goods to make a living. One day, the sky suddenly poured down heavy rain. The rain came unexpectedly, so fast that Uncle Nam couldn't react in time. His clothes were soaked, his baskets were heavy with water, and his goods were drenched and no longer intact. Passers-by rushed to find shelter. Everyone frowned and complained. But Uncle Nam just smiled faintly, looked up at the sky, letting each raindrop fall. He quietly told a passerby, "Rain is also a gift from heaven. If I can't sell today, I'll sell tomorrow. Rain can wet my goods, but it can't wet my heart." That simple statement stunned those around him. While many people complained about the rain, Uncle Nam saw it as a part of life, a natural phenomenon that needed to be embraced. That story reminds me of a truth. When we accept, we are no longer submerged in suffering. The rain still falls, but our hearts stop churning. Suffering may still be present, but we don't let it destroy our inner peace. Acceptance is the protective raincoat that helps us pass through the storm without getting wet to our souls. We often suffer not because of the event itself, but because we resist it. When we lose a loved one, we cry, we grieve, hoping they will return. But the truth is, they are gone. When we lose money, we regret, we complain. But the truth is, the money is lost. When others misunderstand us, we feel frustrated. We try to justify ourselves. But the truth is, they are not ready to listen. Resistance does not change the truth. It only exhausts us. Acceptance does not mean being happy with loss, but realizing that loss is a part of life, and then finding a way to get up and move forward. Someone once asked the Phat Phap Linh Ung channel how one could accept when one is in such great pain. I answered that acceptance does not come in a single moment, but is a process. It begins with us stopping asking, "Why me?" and gradually replacing it with the question, "What can I learn from this?" When we change the question, we change our perspective. And when we change our perspective, we open a new door. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that the mind is restless because it chases after what it dislikes, and the mind is at peace because it knows how to follow conditions. Acceptance is precisely this following of conditions. When life does not go our way, we can complain, or we can remain calm. The difference lies in the choice within our minds. A person who knows how to accept is not weak, but strong enough not to let adversity control their emotions. Look at a lotus flower. The lotus is born in mud, lives in mud, but it does not resent the mud. It accepts the mud as an essential part of life. It is because of the mud that the lotus rises and blooms purely. If the lotus rejected the mud, it would never have radiated its fragrance. Humans are the same. It is adversities and challenges that nurture our growth. If we know how to accept, we will see that in every tear, there is a seed of wisdom. Acceptance also helps us learn to love ourselves more. When we accept that we sometimes make mistakes, we stop blaming ourselves too much. When we accept that others also have limitations, we stop expecting too much from them. Acceptance does not make us perfect, but helps us become more tolerant and gentle. And from that tolerance, we find peace. In life, we can encounter countless images of simple yet profound acceptance. A poor mother accepts that she cannot afford new clothes for her children, but still loves them with all her heart, raising them with patience. A father accepts his hair gradually turning gray, accepts old age approaching, but still smiles kindly, still uses his trembling hands as a support for his children and grandchildren. A patient accepts pain without complaining, but still looks at life with gratitude for being able to breathe, to still be alive. It is this acceptance that makes them beautiful, makes them steady, like mountains in a storm. When we practice acceptance, we will see something miraculous. Life is not as harsh as we imagine. On the contrary, life opens up other paths for us, other opportunities, simple joys that we never noticed before. It's like when we stand in the rain. Instead of complaining, if we look up and take a deep breath, we will feel the cool scent of the sky, hear the gentle pitter-patter of raindrops, and see the innocent joy of children running and playing in the rain. The rain is still rain, but our experience has changed simply because we know how to accept. So, my dear friend, if today you are facing an unexpected storm in life, do not rush to complain. Try sitting down, taking a deep breath, and telling yourself that rain is also a part of this life. Acceptance does not make difficulties disappear, but it makes you a more generous person with yourself and with the world. Acceptance does not erase suffering, but gives you wings to fly over that suffering with a peaceful heart. Life will never go entirely our way, but we can choose to live serenely amidst unfavorable circumstances. And that is the power of acceptance. There are times we sit silently in the night, listening to the wind gently rustle through the eaves, listening to the steady rain falling on the roof tiles, and a nameless sadness suddenly arises in our hearts. It is not the sadness of the present, but the echo of distant memories that still linger in our souls. People often suffer not because of what is happening right now, but because they carry an invisible burden on their shoulders, memories of suffering. The past is like a river that has flowed, but we keep clinging to every drop of water, every wave that has dissipated. And the tighter we hold, the more tired and heavy we feel. Because water never flows upstream, just as time never turns back. Perhaps you have also experienced that feeling in a moment. Old images suddenly rush back. It could be the harsh words someone once directed at us. It could be a mistake we endlessly blame ourselves for. Or it could be an event that broke our hearts. They're like scars etched in our minds. Even after years pass, they sometimes still throb with a dull ache. We ask ourselves, why do past memories still hurt us? The answer is very simple, but very difficult to accept. Because we haven't truly let go, haven't truly forgiven. We keep clinging to the past, hoping that one day it will change, hoping that the person who hurt us will apologize, hoping that the mistake will be erased. But life does not operate according to our desires. The past only moves in one direction, and we cannot undo it. The only thing we can do is change how we view it. In Buddhist teachings, there is a saying that hatred cannot be extinguished by hatred. Only compassion and forgiveness can do that. Memories of suffering are the same. We cannot drive them away by forcing ourselves to forget, nor can we make them disappear with hatred. The more we resist, the tighter they cling to us. Only when we open our hearts to accept them as part of our journey, then smile and let go, can we truly be free. Imagine we are walking on a long road. On our shoulders is a backpack, and each painful memory is a stone we put into it. The more years pass, the heavier the backpack becomes. We trudge along, exhausted and weary, but strangely, we don't think of taking the stones out. Many people even cling tightly to each stone because they think that letting go would be denying themselves. But is that true? No. Letting go is not denial, nor is it forgetting. Letting go is knowing that we don't need to carry everything from the past, because it no longer nourishes our souls. Like a withered flower, we can appreciate its beauty when it bloomed, but we don't need to hold on to the dry petals in our palm forever. There is a story about Lan, a young teacher, 32 years old. Lan's childhood was not as peaceful as others. Her parents, due to life pressures, often scolded and sometimes vented their anger on her. Although her parents still provided for Lan's education, the harsh words from her childhood left a difficult-to-heal wound within her. She grew up with a complex that she was useless, that she was not good enough. In her work, Lan always tried twice as hard as others, but deep down, the fear of being criticized was always present. Her childhood memories clung to her like a shadow, making it difficult for her to find peace, even as an adult. Then one day, Lan accidentally read a piece of advice. Write a letter of forgiveness, not to send, but to free yourself. She sat down, picked up a pen, and wrote trembling lines. Dear Mom and Dad, I once suffered because of your scolding. I once felt small and abandoned, but now I want to forgive. I understand that you were also just weak humans with your own sufferings that you didn't know how to handle. I forgive you, and I forgive myself for carrying that memory for too long. When she finished writing, Lan burst into tears, but they were tears of relief. Strangely, from that day on, she felt more peaceful, lighter in her heart. It wasn't that the memory disappeared, but that the burden in her heart had been lifted. Lan's story makes us realize something. Forgiveness does not make the past disappear, but it opens our hearts. Forgiveness is not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve peace. And forgiveness is not only for others, but also for ourselves. Because often, people suffer not from the mistakes of others, but from blaming themselves for too long. We are angry with ourselves for making mistakes, for missing opportunities, for loving the wrong person, for trusting the wrong place. We think that self-blame is a way to atone, but in reality, it is just a chain that imprisons the soul. We need to learn to release ourselves. No one is born perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is what lesson we learn from that wound to live better. Remember that the past only exists in memory, while the present is where we truly live. If we keep living in the past, the present will pass by meaninglessly. A person who constantly looks backward cannot see the path ahead. Releasing painful memories means returning to the present to see that right this moment, we can still breathe, still smile, still start anew, like a calm lake. When we stop throwing stones of resentment, the water will gradually become clear again, reflecting the vast blue sky. If you still have many wounds in your heart, please try once to write them all down and then let them go. Try once to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and silently say, "I forgive, I let go." Tears may fall, but afterward, you will feel your heart expand. Don't be afraid that letting go is forgetting. No, letting go is simply no longer allowing the past to bind us. Memories remain, but they no longer have the power to hurt us. They are just a lesson, and that lesson helps us grow. Don't you see? When we forgive, when we let go, our faces also become gentler, our eyes brighter. Those around us will feel that energy, and then our lives will become lighter. Releasing painful memories is not only healing for ourselves, but also a gift we give to our loved ones, to life. Because a serene heart will radiate serenity. A peaceful soul will bring peace to the entire surrounding space. So please, do not be afraid to let go. Do not be afraid to forgive. Let the past sleep in the past so that the present can be complete and the future has a chance to bloom. Each morning, when the sun shines through the window, remind yourself that today is a new day. I don't need to carry old burdens. I deserve peace. I deserve happiness. Have you ever looked up at the sky and seen the clouds drifting endlessly? They swirl, change shape, then dissipate, never holding on to one form. Yet humans are not like clouds. We often try to cling, accumulate, and crave more and more. We think that if we have a bigger house, a nicer car, a larger sum of money, life will be complete and happiness will find its way to us. But the more we accumulate, the more we crave, the more we feel another void in our hearts. It's like someone drinking seawater. The more they drink, the thirstier they become. Excessive craving prevents us from ever feeling truly satisfied. There is a simple truth the Buddha once taught. Knowing contentment is happiness. The saying sounds simple, but if we contemplate it, we will see it contains profound wisdom. Because much of human suffering stems from endless craving. When we don't have something, we yearn for it. When we have it, we fear losing it. When it's lost, we regret it. The mind constantly revolves in this vicious cycle, like a bird trapped in a cage, flying endlessly, but never finding a way out. There is a story about Mr. Bin, a factory worker in his 40s. His life was simple, with a small house in the suburbs and a job sufficient to support his family. Yet, in his heart, he always harbored a dream. To have a very large house, a very luxurious car, to be equal to his friends, so that others would look up to him. He plunged into working extra hours, borrowing money, and finding every way to achieve his desires. But the more he tried, the more he fell into a spiral of debt. Family meals, once warm and harmonious, became tense. Husband and wife frequently argued, and their children became fearful and distant. The big house remained a distant dream, but the small happiness that once existed right beside him gradually crumbled. One day, when illness struck due to overwork, Mr. Bin lay in his hospital bed and realized that what he had sacrificed was not worth it. He had missed so many dinner meals, missed the smiles of his wife and children, just to chase after endless desires. When he stopped, accepted a simple life, was grateful for his small home, grateful for warm meals, his heart truly found peace again. He realized that peace was never out there, but always right in the things he already had. Mr. Bin's story is also a reflection of the lives of many of us. Modern society constantly bombards us with messages that we must have more, must be more, to be considered successful. We look at a neighbor with a beautiful house, and our hearts become restless. We see friends with high-paying jobs, and envy arises. We set ourselves on a ladder and keep climbing, never reaching the top, because that ladder is not supported by anything. Excessive craving is like tying ourselves to a car with no brakes. The faster it goes, the more out of control it becomes. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a fundamental principle called tri-tuk, meaning knowing contentment. Tri-tuk does not mean resigning oneself to poverty, nor does it mean abandoning dreams. Tri-tuk simply means knowing when to stop, knowing how to appreciate what we have, not letting unrestrained ambition dominate our lives. It's like drinking water, knowing when to stop when we are full, not drinking excessively to the point of poisoning. A person who knows contentment, even if they only eat plain rice and salted vegetables, still feels joy in their heart. A person who does not know contentment, even with a vault full of gold and silver, still feels a sense of lack. Look at nature to see this lesson clearly. The small stream gurgles through the mountain pass, never complaining that it is not as vast as a river, yet it brings cool water to countless fields and villages. The wild flower by the road does not compare itself to the flowers in a royal garden, yet it beautifies every small path. Beauty and value do not lie in how much we possess, but in how fully we live with what is present. Humans are the same. If we constantly compare and crave, we will never feel enough. But when we stop, take a deep breath, and smile at what we have, we will find peace. Do you realize that happiness is actually very simple? An afternoon spent with loved ones, drinking a warm cup of tea, an early morning breathing in the scent of flowers and grass, a child's smile after school. All these things do not require much money nor fame. They only require a grateful heart and can become an endless source of happiness. Yet, in the race of life, many people overlook these, simply because their eyes are always looking to distant places, searching for something called enough that they never truly find. Some people think that if they don't crave, if they don't strive, life will stagnate. But my friend, letting go of excessive craving is not abandoning effort. It is simply learning to balance so that we are not controlled by craving. We still work, still contribute, but our hearts are no longer attached. We sow seeds, care for them, and then calmly await the ripe fruit, without impatience, without forcing things. Like a gardener who knows that spring is for sowing, summer for nurturing, autumn for harvesting, and winter for resting. Life has its own seasons. We just need to follow them. No need to push. Perhaps you have been disappointed when a desire didn't materialize. You might think your life is unfortunate because you didn't achieve that thing. But consider how many times in life we haven't achieved something, only to realize that precisely because of that, another door opened for us, a more suitable, more peaceful one. If we had gotten what we wanted then, who knows what other suffering we might be carrying now. Therefore, excessive craving is like boxing ourselves into one direction, while life is inherently open to countless paths. Knowing how to let go of craving, we will find life lighter. And sometimes, what we truly need quietly comes to us. As you listen to this, you might ask how to practice letting go of excessive craving. The answer is not really complicated. Every day, try to look at yourself and silently thank what you have. Write down 3 things you are grateful for at the end of the day. It could be just a full meal, a roof over your head that protects from rain and sun, or a smile you received. When your heart is full of gratitude, craving will naturally subside. Additionally, try to slow down. Reduce useless comparisons. Everyone has their own journey. We don't need to follow in others' footsteps. Simply walking serenely on our own path is happiness. Remember one thing: much craving leads to much disappointment. The more we chase after what is beyond our reach, the further we move away from the simple joys that are present. Happiness is not about how much more we have, but about how much we appreciate. When we learn the art of contentment, our hearts will be at peace, our minds will be clear, and from that, peace will naturally blossom in every moment of life. In the hurried pace of life, have you ever stopped for a long moment to listen to the wind gently rustle through the leaves, to gaze at a flower blooming in the morning mist, or to savor a warm cup of tea in your hands? Amidst all the noise, competition, and rush, sometimes just a simple moment like that is enough for our minds to quiet down, to realize that we can still touch a very small, yet profoundly deep happiness. Simplicity does not mean poverty, but is an art of living, a wise choice for the soul to be at ease, undisturbed by the myriad complexities of life. People often think that to be happy, they must have a lot, achieve a lot, fill their homes with wealth, fill their life's resume with successes, with trips, with wide-ranging relationships. But then, even when they have a lot, they still feel something is missing. When they have achieved, they still feel it's not enough. Because the more you have, the more restless your heart becomes, the more entangled, the more afraid of losing, the thirstier you become. Simplicity is knowing when to stop, knowing how to discard superfluous things, keeping only what is truly essential for the spiritual life. Like a garden that wants to be beautiful, it's not about planting countless flowers, but about nurturing the species that suit the soil and light, so they can naturally radiate their fragrance. In Buddhist teachings, simplicity is not about abandoning everything and living in deprivation, but an inner tranquility. The Buddha once taught that when the mind is calm, a bowl of rice is enough, a cup of tea is enough, a small home is enough. Happiness does not come from complexity, but from serenity, when the mind knows how to rest in the present. When meditating, we clearly see that just breathing is a miracle. Just being alive to hear birds sing, to see the blue sky, to feel the heartbeat is a great blessing. There is a question you should sometimes ask yourself. In the hurried pace of life, do you dare to choose a slow, profound way of living? That question sounds simple, but answering it is not easy. Because living simply in a society that constantly promotes consumption, constant comparison, and constant encouragement of competition is truly a challenge. Those who choose simplicity are not doing so because they cannot keep up with the pace of life out there, but because they have seen that running endlessly leads nowhere, and trying to grasp endlessly holds on to nothing. So they choose a different way of life, lighter yet deeper. I want to tell you a story about Uncle Bay in a distant countryside. He was over 75, living alone in a small tiled house, darkened by time. Every morning, he woke up as the rooster crowed, lit the stove to boil water, and then calmly brewed tea. His rural tea wasn't expensive, just tea leaves picked from his garden, steeped in an old ceramic pot. But when he took a sip, he closed his eyes, letting the flavor spread through his mouth and in every breath, then gently smiled. Afterward, he went to the porch, sat watching the wildflowers bloom in his garden, and exchanged a few words with neighbors passing by. Everyone said he was poor because there was nothing valuable in his house. His most precious possessions were just an old teapot and a small garden full of green vegetables. Yet, strangely, his face always shone with a tranquil smile, and his eyes always reflected contentment. When someone asked him why he smiled despite being poor, he softly replied, "A good cup of tea, a peaceful heart is enough." That saying, though simple, contains profound wisdom. For if we know contentment, life is always full. If we constantly compare ourselves to others, looking up to feel inferior, looking around to feel lacking, then we will never be happy in life. But if we know how to appreciate what we have, then even a small house is a peaceful haven. Even a simple meal is a feast. Even a cup of tea is a state of meditation. A person who knows how to live simply is one who has found the treasure within themselves, a treasure that no one can steal, a wealth that cannot be diminished. In fact, simplicity is a form of spiritual practice. Because when we are simple, we discard excessive desires, discard comparison and competition, discard unnecessary burdens. Then our minds become lighter, more at peace. Simplicity does not force us to live in poverty, but asks us to learn to live mindfully, choosing what is needed and letting go of what is superfluous. In our homes, instead of accumulating unused items, we choose to keep only what truly brings value. In our hearts, instead of filling it with anger, ambition, and envy, we choose to keep love, empathy, and gratitude. A cup of tea, when the mind is agitated, is just water with a bitter taste. But when the mind settles, in every drop of tea, we can see the peace of heaven and earth, see the sweat of the tea pickers, and even see the cycle of clouds, rain, and 4 seasons. Living simply is the same. It is living with an awareness that sees deeply, sees much in little, finds enough in little, finds richness in simplicity. So, if you are feeling too tired, too chaotic in your life, try living simply again. In the morning, instead of rushing out, sit on the porch, take a deep breath, and watch the sunrise. At mealtime, instead of comparing tastes, eat mindfully, feeling the nourishing grains of rice. In conversation, instead of worrying about gain or loss, listen with all your heart. You will find that true happiness is not far away, but is present in the very small things you once overlooked. Uncle Bay, with his rural tea, is a vivid illustration of a simple and serene life. No need for much wealth, no need for status, no need for extravagance. He was still completely happy because he had found the richness within his own soul. In modern life, we can learn a valuable lesson from him. For when we are simple, we are truly rich. And when we know when to stop, we are truly at peace. And my friend, remember that simplicity is not abandoning everything, but knowing how to keep the most essential things. Simplicity is not poverty, but a wise choice for the soul to be free. Simplicity is an art, a journey of practice, a path that leads us back to serenity, so that each day that passes is not a tiring race, but a peaceful melody in which we live fully in every note. When you practice living simply, you will find you need less but are happier, worry less but are more at peace. And then you will smile like Uncle Bay, smile from your heart, because you have found peace in every moment, every breath, every sip of tea, every flower blooming by the roadside. Have you ever noticed that in the vast sky, white clouds are not always calm? Sometimes they swirl. Sometimes they're heavy and gray. Sometimes they pour down torrential rain. But thanks to those rains, the earth becomes more fertile. Trees can sprout, and flowers have a chance to bloom beautifully. Humans are the same. No one in life can live an entire existence without experiencing suffering. Suffering is like rain, sometimes making us cold and trembling, feeling as if we cannot bear it. But it is precisely through those stormy days that our souls are tempered, our resilience awakened, and true growth blossoms. Suffering, viewed from a different angle, is not an enemy of our lives, but a strict teacher. A teacher who does not use sweet words, does not give us easy lessons, but teaches us through challenges, through tears, through falls. It is often said that adversity is the fire that tests gold. Without suffering, we would forever remain a rough, unpolished stone, unable to shine. Only when we confront, accept, and overcome it do we truly understand what happiness is, what lasting peace is. Many of us still wish for a life free of hardship, illness, loss, and struggle. But is there anyone in this world who achieves that? Even the Buddha, when he was a prince living in a palace of jade, could not escape birth, old age, sickness, and death. It was when he confronted that truth that he dedicated himself to finding the path to liberation. Therefore, instead of running away from suffering, we can learn to see it as a lesson, a door opening to growth. I want to tell you the story of Mai, a young woman only 25 years old. Mai was a final year student, full of dreams and plans for the future. But one day, while getting a health checkup for prolonged fatigue, she received the devastating news that she had a severe illness. That announcement was like a knife piercing her heart. All her unfinished plans suddenly collapsed. Mai cried until her tears ran dry. For days she couldn't eat or sleep, always immersed in fear and despair. Perhaps anyone in that situation would collapse. But then, during her months of treatment, Mai accidentally discovered meditation practice. Initially, it was just sitting quietly for a few minutes, focusing on her breath to forget the pain. But gradually, she began to find a space of peace within her own mind. She realized that suffering didn't disappear immediately, but it no longer swallowed her whole. Every day, Mai practiced looking at her illness like a friend, like a teacher who was teaching her how fragile life is and how precious every moment of existence is. The months of confronting her illness transformed Mai from a weak, anxious girl into a more mature, resilient, and profound person. She no longer blamed fate, no longer endlessly worried about a distant future, but learned to live fully in the present. One morning, looking at the sunlight streaming through the hospital window, she smiled because she realized she was alive for another day. A meal with her family, even if it was simple dishes, brought tears to her eyes from happiness. From despair, Mai found a new source of strength. And thanks to it, she passed through difficult months with a more serene mindset. Mai's story might bring tears to many, but it is also clear proof that suffering is not just darkness, but can also be a guiding light that awakens us. If not for the illness, Mai might have lived carelessly, taking life for granted, chasing after distant fantasies. But it was that event that made her stop, look deeply into the true value of human life, and from there, learn to cherish every breath, every moment. In Buddhist philosophy, suffering is called dukkha, the first noble truth that the Buddha illuminated. He did not deny or conceal suffering, but stated directly that suffering is an essential part of human existence. But at the same time, he also pointed out the path to transform that suffering, turning it into an opportunity for practice, into the material for enlightenment. Because if we don't know suffering, we won't seek happiness. If we don't taste bitterness, we won't appreciate sweetness. If we haven't shed tears, we won't understand the value of a smile. Think about it. Isn't it precisely the stumbles and falls in life that become turning points that make us grow? A failure at work can teach us patience. A broken relationship can teach us how to love correctly. A loss in the family can make us appreciate the loved one still by our side. All these things, when viewed with an awakened mind, are precious lessons. Suffering can knock us down for a time, but if we know how to get up, it will become wings that lift us higher. Just as the mud makes the lotus purer, adversity makes our souls more resilient. And once we have passed through suffering, the happiness we find will no longer be fragile and easily broken, but a solid peace, because we know it was built with blood, sweat, and patience. Therefore, do not fear suffering. Do not think that suffering is the end. In fact, suffering is just one chapter in the book of life, and after that chapter, new pages are still waiting to be written. The important thing is how we write them, with resignation or with courage, with despair or with faith. Suffering cannot be avoided. But how we face it, we can choose. If one day you find yourself immersed in sadness, in disappointment, in an unforeseen event, try to sit still, breathe deeply, and tell yourself, I am learning a new lesson from life. This lesson may hurt me, but it will also make me grow. Let suffering temper your heart, expand your compassion, so you know how to love yourself more, love others more, and cherish life more. Finally, remember the Buddha's teaching that happiness is not the absence of suffering, but the ability to transform suffering. Just as a lotus blooms from the mud, light shines from darkness. True joy is found after we pass through challenging times. When you dare to face suffering, you will realize that happiness has never left you. It is just waiting for you to mature so you can receive it with a strong and grateful heart. Have you ever sat quietly on a windy afternoon, watching white clouds drift freely across the sky, and wondered what makes the clouds so serene? No matter where the wind blows, the clouds gently follow it, without attachment, without clinging, without judgment. Human life is also like those clouds, constantly pushed by the winds of countless conditions, sometimes going with the flow, sometimes against the current, sometimes caught in an unexpected storm. However, if our minds know how to return to our breath, know how to pause in the present, then no matter how turbulent the storm outside, within us there will still be a basa, tranquil, serene sky. That is the power of mindfulness. Mindfulness, in simple terms, is the ability to be fully present in every moment. When breathing, knowing that we are breathing. When walking, knowing that we are walking. When eating, knowing that we are eating. It sounds so simple, but in reality, how many of us truly live that way? We often breathe without knowing we are breathing. We eat while our minds wander to our phone screens. We walk while our thoughts drift to unresolved worries or past mistakes. Therefore, our bodies are in the present, but our minds are trapped in the past or projected into the future. That is the reason why we always feel restless, unsettled, and tired. Some say mindfulness is like a lamp placed in a dark room. When the light is lit, we see everything around us clearly, no longer stumbling, no longer panicking. Similarly, when mindfulness is present, our minds light up, becoming aware of all the events unfolding, no longer swept away by the continuous stream of thoughts. Try to imagine a morning when you wake up, quickly check your phone for notifications, and then rush into work. Throughout that day, you live in a hurried cycle. You eat just to satisfy hunger. You walk just to get to work. You breathe just to sustain life, while your mind is tense and entangled, always feeling as if an invisible hand is squeezing it tight. In the evening, when you lie down in bed, you sigh. Another day has passed, but you haven't truly lived. Compare that to another day, when you decide to try living slower. In the morning, you open your eyes, smile, take a deep breath, aware that you are alive, that you have the opportunity to love and experience. When you brush your teeth, You know you are brushing your teeth. When you eat, you know you are eating. And you chew slowly, savoring the flavors. In that moment, your soul feels an unusual peace. Just like that, a day that passes also becomes a gift, not a race. Min's story, a friend who works in the IT industry, can help us understand this better. Min is 30 years old. His job is always busy, spent all day in front of a computer screen. At every lunch break at work, Min eats while typing on the keyboard, his eyes glued to lines of code. For him, eating is just a procedure to refuel and continue working. He no longer remembers the last time he sat and ate in silence. One day, the company organized a short mindfulness retreat for employees. Min, not particularly interested, still attended just to be present. During the retreat's lunch, everyone was instructed to chew slowly, put down their spoon after each bite, and focus only on the taste of the food. Initially, Min felt it was strange, a bit awkward, but when he tried to follow, chewing each grain of rice slowly, he suddenly realized that this was the first time he had fully experienced the sweet taste of the rice, the fragrant richness of the vegetables, and even gratitude towards the farmers who had planted and harvested them. In that moment, he felt an unusual peace in his heart, as if a cool stream of water flowed through a soul that had been parched by pressure. After that experience, Min began to change his habits. He took time to eat his meals unhurriedly, occasionally pausing to breathe, to know that he was alive. As a result, he became less stressed, and his mood also became much lighter. Min's story is clear proof of the power of mindfulness. There's no need to do anything grand. Just by returning to our breath, to each grain of rice, we can touch peace. Mindfulness doesn't promise to erase all difficulties, but it helps us face those difficulties with a different mindset, more steadfast, more gentle. In daily life, we can practice mindfulness through 3 basic doors: mindful breathing, mindful walking, and mindful eating. Mindful breathing is when we are aware of each breath in and out, allowing the breath to be the anchor that holds the mind in the present. Mindful walking is when we take each step slowly, feeling our feet touch the ground, knowing we are walking. We are present. Mindful eating is when we chew slowly, fully present with the food, seeing the love and effort embedded in each grain of rice. Some might ask, aren't these things too simple? How can they help us overcome suffering? But it is precisely in these simple things that the power to heal is hidden. Because the human mind is like a river. If it is constantly stirred by the storms of the past and future, the water will be murky, unable to reflect the tranquil moon. When we stop and breathe mindfully, that river settles. The water becomes clear again, and the moon of peace naturally appears. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that the past is gone. The future has not yet come. Only the present is life. Yet most of us let our minds wander to things that are not real in this moment. We suffer over things that cannot be changed, or worry about things that have not yet happened. If we know how to stop and return to the present, all that suffering will dissipate like mist when the sun rises. A Zen master once said, "Mindfulness is like a paddle, keeping the boat from being swept away in strong currents." Life is full of unpredictable changes. Without mindfulness, We can easily be engulfed in waves of emotion, then drift aimlessly. With mindfulness, we keep our hand on the paddle, steering the boat in the right direction. Even if the water flows strongly, we are not afraid of being swept away. A person who practices mindfulness is often not someone who avoids all suffering, but someone who knows how to transform suffering into material that nourishes understanding and compassion. A lotus can only bloom from the mud. Similarly, true happiness can only shine when we know how to embrace and transform suffering. If we keep running away from suffering, it will only chase us more. But if we stop, breathe, and look deeply into it, we will realize that suffering is also just a guest that comes and goes, and within it, the seed of happiness is hidden. Practicing mindfulness is also like sowing seeds of peace in the soil of our soul. Initially, that seed is small and fragile. Just a gust of worry is enough to shake it. But if we diligently water and nurture it every day with our breath, with our steps, with our smiles, that seed will gradually grow into a sturdy tree that provides shade for us amidst the scorching sun of life. Some ask, how can I maintain mindfulness when work is so busy, when there is so much pressure? In reality, mindfulness does not require us to abandon life, but rather to bring awareness into every daily activity. When washing dishes, just know that you are washing dishes. When a friend confides in you, just know that you are listening. When walking on the street, just know that you are walking. No need to add anything, just the mind being fully present. It is this very simplicity that brings profound depth. When the mind is at ease in the present, we will realize how rich we are. A fresh breath, a warm bowl of rice, a loved one's smile, all are miracles. We no longer feel lacking, no longer get caught up in endless desires. And so, suffering gradually dissipates, happiness gradually appears. Finally, the most important thing to remember is that mindfulness is not a theory to be discussed idly, but a way of life to be practiced. Every day, even if only for a few minutes, stop to breathe, to smile, to know that you are alive. When the mind is in the present, all past suffering and future worries vanish, and in that moment, we touch true peace, a peace not brought about by any external circumstances, but arising from within our own souls. On a quiet afternoon, as the sun's gentle golden light slowly descended upon old tile roofs, have you ever sat alone and thought about the grudges that have long accumulated in your heart? Anger is like a small fire smoldering in embers. At a glance, it seems like nothing. But with just a gentle breeze, that fire flares up, burning the heart and making our breath heavy. People often think that holding on to resentment is to punish others, to make them suffer as we once did. But in reality, the first one to be burned is no one else but ourselves. It's like holding a hot coal in your hand, hoping to throw it at the person who hurt you. But first, your hand gets burned. In Buddhist teachings, there is a saying that anyone embarking on the path of practice has heard more or less. Hatred cannot extinguish hatred. Only love can extinguish hatred. That saying is like a lamp hung high, illuminating the dark corners of the human soul filled with bitterness. Because the more we use hatred to respond to hatred, the more we are like someone throwing oil onto a fire, making it burn more fiercely, eventually consuming the peaceful land of the heart. Forgiveness, therefore, is not an act of weakness, nor is it concession or acceptance of defeat. Forgiveness is an act of courage, because it requires us to confront the wounds in our own hearts, accept that we have been hurt, then decide not to let those wounds continue to control our present and future. Forgiveness is not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve to live in peace. There is a simple but meaningful story. Mrs. Hoa, a woman over 50, lived in a peaceful countryside with a small garden behind her house. Her life was not eventful, but there was one thing that weighed heavily on her heart for many years. One day, her neighbor, having lost a chicken, suspected and then falsely accused Mrs. Hoa. It was a small matter, but for a woman who had lived her entire life upholding her reputation, it was like a knife plunged into her heart. She was angry, she was humiliated, and from then on, the two families barely spoke. Every time she passed the fence, she felt her blood boil, wondering why she had to endure such injustice. Years passed, but her heart still harbored resentment. Then one day, after a long illness, Mrs. Hoa sat on her porch, looking at her lush vegetable garden, and suddenly sighed. She realized that the neighbor was also old, also struggling with his field, and no longer had the energy to remember the lost chicken from years ago. People had forgotten, but she still held that fire of anger in her heart, letting it gnaw at every morning, every meal, every sleep. It was then that she suddenly understood that the one who had suffered the most all this time was no one else but her. The next day, she picked some vegetables from her garden and took them to her neighbor. At first, he was surprised, then flustered, then tears welled up with emotion. A trembling handshake replaced the belated apology. From then on, the two families reconnected, sometimes sharing a cup of tea, talking about the harvest, about their children and grandchildren. And strangely, from the moment she let go, her heart felt much lighter. Her sleep was deeper, and her face was brighter. She told her children and grandchildren that forgiveness was not because the other person deserved it, but because she deserved to live peacefully. Mrs. Hoa's story reflects many hearts writhing in resentment. Perhaps you are angry with a loved one for a careless word, angry with a friend for betrayal, angry with a colleague for jealousy, angry with a stranger for a rude action. These angers may seem small, but if kept for a long time, they become taic seeds sown in the soil of the soul. Then one day, when those seeds grow into thorns, they will make every step we take in life painful. Forgiveness does not erase memories, nor does it force us to forget what happened. Forgiveness is simply choosing not to let those memories continue to bind and control our lives. It's like a lotus flower rising from the mud. The mud is still there, still present, but the lotus does not allow itself to sink into the mud, but rises to radiate its fragrance, making life more fragrant. Looking back, we will see the hurts we have experienced. Although painful, they are also precious lessons. The person who hurt us can sometimes be an invisible teacher, helping us learn to let go, to open our hearts. The Buddha taught that all conditions in life have meaning. Those who bring us joy and those who bring us sorrow are all part of our journey of spiritual growth. Without those pains, how would we know to cherish peace? Without darkness, how would we recognize light? Some people hold on to hatred their entire lives, carrying that resentment to their grave. But resentment does not rest. It follows them like a burden, sometimes even sowing seeds for future lives. Therefore, forgiveness is sowing good seeds. Forgiveness not only liberates the present, but also opens a bright path for the future. Forgiveness is not only letting go, but also protecting ourselves from the cycles of hatred. Perhaps you will ask, does forgiveness mean letting others do whatever they want? No. Forgiveness does not mean we allow injustice to continue. Forgiveness is simply not letting our minds be controlled by that injustice. We can still speak up for what is right, but our hearts no longer harbor the toxins of hatred. It's like water. When it is pure, it can extinguish fire, but when it itself is polluted, it only makes the fire burn stronger. Try to imagine waking up one morning, opening the window, taking a deep breath of cool air, and no longer remembering the resentments of yesterday. Your heart is empty of resentment, filled only with peace. At that moment, every leaf outside, every bird's song, every step you take to work also becomes a miracle. Forgiveness is the door that opens that miracle. My dear friend, forgiveness is never easy. It requires practice, patience, and a generous heart. But once you begin, you will find that each step of forgiveness is like a gentle step, shedding a long-held burden from your shoulders. The path ahead will be brighter, easier to walk, and you will feel freer than ever before. Remember that forgiveness is not for others, but for yourself. Don't let the dark clouds of hatred obscure the clear sky of your soul. Let compassion illuminate your heart so it can rest, so that every moment of daily life becomes a song of peace. And when you forgive, you are also giving yourself a priceless gift: freedom. Some mornings, as gentle sunlight falls upon the earth, you see a wild flower blooming by the roadside. The flower demands nothing, nor does it compare itself to the arrogant roses in a royal garden. It simply blooms quietly, radiates its fragrance, offering its beauty to life. Love in the human heart is also like that wild flower, unpretentious, calculating nothing. But when present, it can make a cold heart suddenly warm, turn a gloomy day into a bright one. People often think that giving is losing, but in the deep philosophy of life, giving is actually receiving. When we smile at someone, that smile does not leave us, but reflects back, making our face brighter, our heart lighter. When we offer a word of encouragement, not only is the listener uplifted, but our own mind is nourished by positive energy. It's like one candle lighting another. It doesn't lose its own light, but the light spreads even further. In Buddhism, compassion, to be, is seen as a cool, sweet stream of water irrigating the parched land of human existence. Without love, people can become dry and barren, like a tree without water, a flower without sunlight. But when love is present, it nourishes us, soothes pain, heals wounds, and ignites faith in others. Love, therefore, is not just an emotion, but a healing energy. There is a small but profound story. Anne, a 12-year-old boy on his way to school each morning, often stopped by his usual bakery. That day, Anne only had enough money to buy one loaf of bread. As he walked, he saw an old man huddled in a street corner, his eyes vacant and hands trembling from hunger. In that moment, Anne hesitated, because if he gave away half the bread, his stomach wouldn't be full. But then his young heart told him that the old man needed that meal more than he did. So Anne tore the loaf of bread in half and gave one half to the old man. The old man looked up and gave a gentle smile, a smile etched by time but incredibly warm. And strangely, Anne felt his heart bubbling with happiness all day long, a happiness even greater than the satisfaction of a full stomach from the entire loaf of bread. That story, seemingly simple, contains a great truth. Giving never impoverishes us, but only makes our hearts richer. Happiness is not about how much we keep for ourselves, but about how much we share with others. Like a river, if it only keeps water for itself, it will become stagnant and polluted. But when the river flows, irrigating fields and nourishing all living things, it is then that the river becomes clearer and cooler. In life, you have probably also experienced moments when a small gesture from someone changed your mood for the entire day. Sometimes it's just a simple question when you're tired, a sympathetic look when you're sad, or a hand extended when you're faltering. All of these have the power to lift your spirits, making you feel that you are not alone. That shows how great the power of love and giving is. Yet, in the hurried pace of modern society, people are increasingly closing their hearts. We are afraid of being exploited, afraid of being betrayed, afraid of being looked down upon. So sometimes we choose to cling tightly to what we have, even a kind word. We think that holding back is safety, is protecting ourselves. But the truth is, the more we hold back, the poorer we become in spirit. The heart is like a room. If you don't open the door for fresh wind and light to flood in, it will become stuffy and confined. Only when you open it, letting the wind and sunlight rush in, does the room become fresh and clear. The Buddha taught that generosity, bodhi, is one of the fundamental practices for those on the path. Generosity is not just giving material wealth, but also giving a smile, giving a listening ear, giving forgiveness, giving time, and love. Every act of giving, however small, creates merit. And that merit is not far away. It returns to nourish the very person who gives. Do you remember the last time you gave without expecting anything in return? Perhaps it was when you gave up your seat on the bus to an elderly person. Perhaps it was when you helped a child carry a heavy backpack up the stairs. Perhaps it was when you sent an encouraging message to a sad friend. In that moment, you lost nothing. But in your heart, you felt warm, felt that your life had more meaning. That is the invisible gift that giving brings. In this vast world, everyone carries silent sorrows that others do not know. A smile, a kind word from you can be a small light that illuminates the darkness in someone's heart. Don't think that these things are meaningless. A small drop of water can soothe a parched land. A small ray of light can dispel an entire dark room. And a small act of love can save a wilting heart. Giving is not always easy. Sometimes we also need to overcome our own selfishness. But remember, what we give may not be as important as the heart we put into it. A half loaf of bread shared by a child can be more valuable than a lavish feast because it contains genuine innocence and sincere love. When we give from the heart, no matter how small the gift, it becomes priceless. The person who lives with love and knows how to give is the richest person, because material wealth will eventually disappear with time. But the merit of love follows us forever. It not only beautifies this life, but also sows good seeds for future lives. Every smile we sow, every tear we wipe away, every word of encouragement we offer, all are seeds of compassion sown in the fertile ground of karmic connections. One day, those seeds will sprout and bloom, and we ourselves will be the ones sitting under the shade of that tree of compassion. My dear friend, do not wait until you are wealthy to give, because giving does not require having much. Do not wait until you are free to love, because love does not require waiting for time. Every moment of life is an opportunity to sow good seeds, to open your heart, to give. And when you give, believe that you have not lost anything, but have just received a part of happiness into your heart. Try to start with the smallest things, like smiling at someone you meet on the street, like listening to someone who needs a shoulder, like sharing a seat, like sharing your meal. When you practice living this way, you will find that this life becomes gentler. Your heart becomes more serene. And then you will realize a simple truth. Giving does not make us poor, but makes our hearts richer. Some early mornings, when the first sunlight gently penetrates through the leaves, do you realize that you are still breathing, still alive, still able to hear the birds singing outside your porch and gaze at a flower that has just blossomed in your yard? Just that much is a priceless gift that life bestows. But amidst the daily worries, we easily forget that this very simple existence is the foundation of happiness. People often tirelessly seek grand things, while true happiness actually begins with a grateful heart. Gratitude is like a small lamp. When lit in the soul, the darkness of resentment and scarcity gradually recedes. Gratitude is not something lofty, but a way of life, a way of seeing. A grateful person is one who can smile even when the day is tiring, because they see that no matter how many challenges remain, life still holds many things to cherish. Like a dewdrop on a lotus leaf, though small and fragile, it reflects the entire sky. A grateful heart is the same. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, turns a gloomy day into a radiant one. In Buddhist scriptures, it is said, "A grateful mind is the foundation of all merit." Because when we are grateful, we no longer dwell in complaint. We no longer let our minds compare gains and losses, but instead, we look at life with humility and openness. Gratitude to our parents for giving us our form. Gratitude to the companions who have brought joy or challenges. Gratitude even for adversities, for it is through them that we grow. Life, by its very nature, does not only have flowers, but also thorns. And when we are grateful, even for sharp thorns, we can understand the value of fragrant flowers. Try to imagine a day when you return home after a long, stressful work shift. A hot bowl of rice awaits you, perhaps simple with just a few vegetables, but it is the effort of the earth, of the farmers who endured sun and rain, of the person who cooked it with love. If viewed with a hurried mind, we see it as just a simple meal. But if viewed with a grateful mind, we see the entire universe converging in that bowl of rice. And in that moment, we feel happiness present in everyday life. There is a very relatable story about Mrs. Lane, a 29-year-old medical staff member. Her work was inherently stressful. Every day, she dealt with patients, with pain, with the worries of their families. Gradually, she found herself irritable, complaining, and even suffering from chronic insomnia. Until one day, after hearing a lecture on practicing gratitude, she decided to try a very simple method. Every evening, before going to bed, she would write down 3 things she was grateful for that day in a notebook. At first, she fumbled because her mind was filled only with fatigue. But then she started writing down small things, grateful that she was still healthy enough to work today, grateful that a patient smiled and thanked her after being cared for, grateful that there was a hot meal tonight. Those written words gradually softened her heart. After a month, she realized she complained less, appreciated every moment more, and from then on, her work also became lighter. Happiness did not come from having less pressure, but from a heart that was more gently grateful. Ms. Lyon's story is also proof of the miracle of gratitude. Gratitude does not instantly give us more material possessions, but it makes our souls richer, more stable, and clearer. When we are grateful, we see ourselves living in a flower garden, not on a barren piece of land. And it is that perspective that changes how we live, how we face every difficulty. You can try practicing like Mrs. Lyon. Every day, just write down 3 things you are grateful for. It could be a stranger who gave up their seat for you on the bus. It could be a rain shower that made the air cooler. It could be the fact that you still have your feet to walk. With long-term practice, you will realize that gratitude is not something we do, but a state of mind. A grateful person will always find life to be full, even in adversity. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is scarcity and endless craving. But when we are grateful, we realize that we are already enough. When you hold a glass of water, if you only focus on the fact that the glass isn't full, you will feel a lack. But if you are grateful for the water you already have, you will feel satisfied. That perspective is the difference between those who suffer and those who are at peace. In today's society, people are often caught in a whirlwind of competition and comparison. They look up to see what they lack, rarely looking down to see what they have. But if we cultivate gratitude, we will stop and silently tell ourselves, "Thank you, for I am still alive. Thank you, for I still have the opportunity to love and be loved." Just that much, and the heart will sparkle with peace. Gratitude is not just for grand things, but also for seemingly small things. A loved one's smile, a friend's handhold, a word of encouragement from a colleague. These things, if we lack gratitude, are easily overlooked. But it is precisely these that are the ingredients for long-lasting happiness. So, if one day you feel life is weighing you down, stop for a moment. Breathe. Look around and try to find 3 things you can be grateful for right then. It might just be gratitude for still having eyes to see the sky, still having ears to hear music, still having a heart to feel love. Just that much is enough for you to see that life is not lacking. A grateful person is always happy because they do not crave too much, but cherish what they have. And when we are grateful, we are also more easily able to give. Because our hearts already feel full, we are not afraid of losing. Like a river that always flows, not keeping water for itself, but never running dry. A grateful heart is the same. The more it gives, the fuller it becomes. If you practice gratitude every day, you will find that afflictions gradually decrease, and suffering also lightens, because gratitude turns our minds towards what is good instead of dwelling on what is lacking. And from that, you will see that peace is not far away. It begins with a grateful heart. So from today, you can start with small steps. Write down things you are grateful for. Send a thank you to someone, or simply smile and silently say thank you to this life itself. Because when we are grateful, every moment becomes happiness. One afternoon, as a storm from offshore swept inland, trees swayed, leaves littered the path. But if you quietly stepped into an ancient temple, sat down in the main hall, you would see a strange contrast. Outside, the rain and wind raged, but inside the temple, the slow rhythm of the wooden fish drum, the lingering chime of the bell, and meditators sat silently, as if undisturbed by the storm. That scene suddenly makes us realize something. The outside world may be in constant flux, but if there is stillness within the soul, then any storm becomes meaningless. True peace does not lie in escaping life, but in finding serenity from within ourselves. The inward journey is the path back to our own hearts. For so long, people have tirelessly sought peace outside themselves. We think that when we have enough money, we will be at ease. We imagine that when we achieve fame, we will be happy. We hope that when others understand and love us, pain will vanish. But then we remain restless because the outside world is inherently not entirely within our control. Things change. Human hearts fluctuate. Times shift. If we place our peace in what is impermanent, it's like building a house on sand. One wave is enough to erase everything. The Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is that we project our minds outwards, chasing after impermanent things, forgetting the treasure already present within our hearts. If we have never truly sat with ourselves, listened to our breath, listened to the ripples in our hearts, we will forever be led by external circumstances. But when we know how to turn inward, to look back, we will realize that peace has never left us. It has only been obscured by layers of dust from afflictions. The image of a person meditating in a deep forest clearly illustrates this. Deep in the forest, winds blow all around, forest leaves rustle, sometimes wild animals howl. But in the closed eyes of the meditator, there is no longer a distinction between inside and outside, no longer confusion, but only a gentle flow of breath, a dwelling in the present. No matter how many storms the world faces, their mind remains like a calm lake, only reflecting the sky, undisturbed by the wind. Peace is like that. It does not lie in external quietness, but in the absence of inner turbulence. The story of Mr. Fuck, a 65-year-old man, is a simple yet profound testament. He once experienced years of chronic insomnia. Every night, he would toss and turn in bed, his mind filled with worries. Are his children, working far away, doing well? His health was declining daily. What would life be like after retirement? These questions spun like a wheel, exhausting him. He sought sleeping pills, entertainment, gatherings with friends, but still did not find true peace. One day, while visiting a pagoda, he heard the abbot advise him, "Every day, you just need to spend 10 minutes sitting still, breathing gently, looking back at yourself. Don't do anything, just sit and breathe." At first, Mr. Fuchs was skeptical, wondering how 10 minutes of sitting still could change a lifetime of restlessness. But because he was so tired, he decided to try. The first day, he sat for less than 5 minutes before feeling agitated. He heard a dog barking. He felt his legs tingle. He thought about going to the market tomorrow. But then he patiently tried again. He chose a small corner in his house. Every early morning and late evening, he sat down, closed his eyes, took a very slow breath in, and a very gentle breath out. Gradually, he realized that the worries were still there, but they no longer swept him away as before. They came and went like clouds drifting across the sky. After a few weeks, he started sleeping better. The stress diminished, and after a few months, Mr. Fuchs felt an unusual serenity in his heart. He realized that peace was not about his children being closer or his health returning to its former state, but about him knowing how to sit with himself, no longer letting the waves of his mind push him around. That story suggests an important lesson. Peace never comes from outside. You can have a quiet home, but if your heart is full of storms, you still cannot sleep well. Conversely, you can live amidst a noisy city, but if your mind is steadfast, you can still hear the birds singing within your heart. Peace is a state of mind, not an external condition. To embark on the inward journey, we do not need elaborate rituals or profound knowledge. We only need to start with the simplest thing: sitting still and listening to ourselves. You might think you don't have time, but isn't 10 minutes a day too little compared to hours spent scrolling on your phone or complaining? Just 10 minutes to look at your breath, to recognize what is happening in your mind, to see that you are still alive, still here. Perhaps at first you will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will race, pulling you everywhere. You will think about work, about home, about unfulfilled dreams. But be patient. Don't force yourself to be silent immediately. Just observe, like sitting by a riverbank watching the water flow. Initially, the water is murky, but if you don't stir it, it will gradually become clear. The mind is the same. When we let it be, it will become clear again. Turning inward does not mean abandoning the external world, nor does it mean avoiding responsibilities or denying relationships. Turning inward is to have a firm foundation from which to step out into life with serenity. Like a meditator sitting in the forest, they are not denying the wind and storm, but they have found a steady footing within themselves, so the wind and storm cannot sweep them away. You can begin this journey today. Find a small corner for yourself, perhaps in your room, outside in the garden, or anywhere you feel comfortable. Sit down, straighten your back, close your eyes, breathe in slowly, and breathe out gently. Don't try to achieve any special state. Just be with your breath. 10 minutes each day. But if you practice regularly, you will find life gradually changing. One day, when you encounter an affliction, instead of reacting immediately, you will naturally pause, breathe, and then you will find your heart is no longer tense as before. That is a sign of a successful inward journey. When you are peaceful inside, the outside world no longer has much power to disturb you. In the scriptures, it is taught that one who knows how to abide within themselves cannot be made to suffer by anything external. Abiding within oneself is the inward journey. It is not selfishness, but the foundation for us to live more fully. For when we have peace in our hearts, we can give peace to others. When we are still, we can listen and understand those around us. If you are still confused, remember Mr. Fuchs' story. A man who was once consumed by insomnia, once suffered from worry. But just by sitting still for 10 minutes each day, he found his sleep and his peace again. You can be like that too. Peace is not far away. It lies right in your breath. So the advice I want to give you is to begin the inward journey, even with small steps. Don't wait until all the storms in life have passed to listen to yourself, because the storms outside will never cease. Find peace from within, and you will see that you can walk through the storm with a serene heart, steadfast and happy. Some mornings, when we open the door and step onto the porch, we suddenly see a petal gently falling to the ground. Yesterday, it was fresh and vibrant in the sun. Yet after just one night, its fragrance and color have faded. We gently bend down to pick up that petal, and unconsciously, a sigh echoes in our hearts, both compassionate and suddenly realizing a simple yet profoundly deep truth. Nothing lasts forever. Flowers will wither, the moon will wane, clouds will drift away. And even the things we thought were the most constant in life all flow, change, never stopping in one moment. That is impermanence, the eternal law governing all things. When impermanence is mentioned, many people often feel sadness, a sense of loss. We regret the beauty that just faded. We fear departure. We worry because we cannot hold on to what we love forever. But in reality, it is precisely because of impermanence that everything becomes more precious. If a flower bloomed and never faded, would we still cherish its fragrance and color? If a sunset lasted endlessly, would we still feel moved by the golden light of the fading day? It is the fragility of all things that makes us cherish every moment, and it is impermanence that helps us learn to let go. For when we understand that nothing truly belongs to us forever, we no longer cling, no longer grasp so tightly that we hurt ourselves. In life, we often suffer due to loss. A loved one passes away. A love breaks apart. A job ends. Or a dream goes unfulfilled. At such times, we often cry out, complain, torment ourselves, wondering why life is so harsh. Yet, if we calmly look back, we will see that from the very beginning, all things carried the imprint of impermanence. Our loved ones beside us will one day have to part. Sweet love will also sometimes change. A job, no matter how stable, can change. And even brilliant dreams will gradually fade with time. Knowing this is not to be pessimistic, but to appreciate more. Because if we know a flower will wither, we will cherish it even more while it blooms. If we know a loved one will one day leave, we will love more fully while we are together. There is a small story, seemingly very ordinary, but it contains a great lesson about impermanence. It is the story of Lan, a 22-year-old student. On an anniversary, her boyfriend gave Lan a bouquet of deep red roses. Lan embraced the bouquet with overflowing happiness, carefully placed it on her study table, and cared for it every day, changing the water, tenderly touching each petal as if fearing they would wilt. However, after just a few days, the petals began to droop, their vibrant red gradually fading to a withered brown. Seeing the wilting bouquet, Lan felt strangely sad. She regretted, she blamed time, and sometimes she even felt as if her love was also fading with each drooping petal. One day, as Lan watched the withered petals fall, her boyfriend suddenly smiled and said, "It is because flowers wither that they are beautiful. If flowers never faded, would you still feel they were so precious? It is this fragility that makes every moment of watching a flower bloom so complete, that makes every second you hold the bouquet so memorable." Those words were like a gentle breeze blowing into Lan's soul. She suddenly realized that it is impermanence that creates the beauty of life. From then on, Lan no longer felt sad when she saw flowers wilt, but smiled, grateful for the days they had bloomed so brightly. And from that lesson, she learned to love her loved ones in the present. For knowing that nothing lasts forever makes her live every moment more fully. Lan's story is perhaps also the story of each of us. How many times have we suffered simply because we could not accept change? We want to cling to a past love, want to keep a beautiful youth forever, want to hold on to an unfading joy. But the tighter we grasp, the more we feel it slipping away. The more we try to hold on, the more helpless we feel. The suffering lies not in the loss, but in the clinging. If we can let go of that attachment, the suffering will gradually vanish. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent. Impermanence is not for us to be pessimistic, but for us to learn to appreciate and to let go. Appreciate because we know every moment is unique and will not be repeated. Let go because we know all things come and go. Like clouds drifting across the sky, nothing can be held on to. Realizing impermanence, we no longer fear loss, but will smile serenely at life's changes. Like a person sitting by a riverbank, watching the water flow, that river never stops, nor does it ever remain the same. Today's water is not yesterday's water, but thanks to this, the river exists forever. Human life is the same. Every minute, every second passes. Every moment changes. If we stubbornly try to hold on to a drop of water in the river, not only will we fail to keep it, but we will also miss the opportunity to gaze at the entire flowing river. Letting go, allowing the water to flow, only then can we enjoy its endless beauty. When we truly understand and accept impermanence, our souls become free. We are no longer bound by the past, nor do we fear the future. We live fully in the present with what we have. We love without attachment. We work without calculating gain or loss. We care for loved ones without demanding reciprocation. Because we know everything will change. And precisely because of that, this moment is even more precious. Some people, upon losing a loved one, completely collapse, unable to get up. But there are also those who, thanks to understanding impermanence, transform that pain into a motivation to live. They know that a loved one's passing is also a part of the natural law. And the best way to show filial piety is to continue living a meaningful life for the sake of the deceased. That is the power of awakening to impermanence. Similarly, when a love ends, instead of blaming or clinging, we can smile with gratitude for having shared a part of the journey together. It was impermanence that brought that person to us, and it is impermanence that took that person away. If we understand that, we will no longer harbor hatred, no longer torment ourselves, but will gently let go so our hearts can be at peace. A person who knows how to live with impermanence will always have an open heart. They know how to cherish every moment of existence, know how to love while they still can, know how to forgive so their heart is no longer heavy. They are like someone appreciating the moon, knowing that a full moon will eventually wane. But instead of being sad, they enjoy the beauty of both the full and waning moon, because both are gifts from heaven and earth. My dear friend, perhaps each of us has at least once stood before an unwanted change, once felt unsteady when losing something precious. But if in that moment we remember that life is impermanent, we will feel lighter in our hearts. We will know that loss is not an end, but merely a transformation. A falling petal is not to be lost, but to make way for a new sprout to emerge. A rainstorm passes, not to extinguish life, but for the sky to become clearer. And a separation sometimes is not to deprive us of happiness, but to open a new journey for us to grow. So instead of fearing impermanence, let us learn to smile and embrace it. Love while you still can. Forgive while there is still time. Live every moment fully, knowing that nothing lasts forever. We will stop wasting time on anger and blame and dedicate all our heart and mind to peace and happiness in the present. Try to look back at your life. How many times have you regretted not saying a word of love in time, not doing a kind deed in time, not smiling at a loved one in time, all because we thought there was still plenty of time, plenty of opportunities. But impermanence always reminds us that nothing is certain about tomorrow. The only thing we truly have is this very moment, right now. So why not live that moment fully? The Buddha once taught, contemplate impermanence to no longer fear. When we know life is impermanent, we no longer worry about loss, no longer fear change. We will be calm in the face of what comes and goes, because we know everything is just a part of the natural flow. And in that calmness, we find peace. If today you are sad about something that has changed, please remember that impermanence not only takes away, but also brings. Flowers wither, but in the next spring, flowers bloom again. People leave, but then we will meet new connections. One door closes, but at the same time, another door opens. Impermanence is a continuous flow, and thanks to it, life is always new, always has opportunities for new beginnings. You can try practicing impermanence in a very simple way. Every morning when you see the sun rise, remind yourself that this light will not be there tomorrow. Every time you hug a loved one, tell yourself that this embrace is precious, because no one knows if there will be another chance to hug tomorrow. When you eat a meal, be grateful for every grain of rice, every piece of vegetable, because none of it is repeated. Practicing this way, you will find your mind gradually lighter, more appreciative of small things, and also more easily able to let go when change comes. my dear friend. Impermanence is the key to letting go. When we understand and accept impermanence, we no longer cling uselessly, no longer complain senselessly, no longer torment ourselves over things beyond our control. We will live freely, serenely, grateful for every moment of existence. And in that letting go, we will find true happiness, a peace that does not depend on anything external, but arises from awakened awareness within the heart. So right now, if you are carrying pain, regret, or fear in your heart, try silently reminding yourself, everything is impermanent. Repeat it until your heart feels that truth. Then you will see the burden gradually vanish, and a lightness, a peace, will gently permeate your soul. Knowing life is impermanent, we no longer fear loss, but cherish this moment even more, because this moment is unique, and it is all we truly have. Live it fully, so that when you look back, you have no regrets, no remorse. That is the path to peace and happiness. One afternoon, as the last light of day slowly descended upon a tranquil lake, we saw the water reflecting the fading sun, its golden-orange light stretching like a thin, shimmering, peaceful silk cloth. That moment made us suddenly realize that everything in life has a beginning and an end. There are ups and downs, changes, but then everything returns to an inherent stillness. Just like that lake, whether clouds drift by or wind blows, it eventually settles to reflect the sky. Human life is the same. After all the struggles and worries, after all the hurts and losses, what we yearn for most is still serenity within the soul. We have journeyed together through a long path, through reflections on letting go, forgiveness, mindfulness, love, and gratitude. Each stop has been like a rest stop on life's road, where we listen, reflect, and are reminded to turn inward. And now, at this final stop, we sit together to light a candle in our hearts, to contemplate and connect everything, and then to release our souls into a common prayer, to live a life of serenity, stillness, and happiness. Letting go is not abandoning everything, but knowing what to keep and what to release. It's like a traveler removing a heavy burden from their shoulders to continue their journey lightly. Forgiveness is not only forgiving others, but also forgiving ourselves, so that our minds are no longer chained by resentment. Mindfulness is the guiding light that helps us return to the present, living every moment fully. Love is the sweet, cool water that nourishes our own parched hearts and those of others. And gratitude is the key that opens the door to peace, helping us see every moment in life as a gift. If letting go removes a burden, then forgiveness softens the heart. If mindfulness is a bright lamp in the darkness, then love is the warmth that warms our hands. If gratitude is the bridge connecting us to the magic of life, then serenity is the destination, where we can sit at ease, smile, and feel completeness within our hearts. In the flow of human existence, we sometimes mistakenly believe that happiness is something grand and distant. We tirelessly chase after fame, material possessions, endless desires. But the more we run, the more tired we feel, the more we feel a lack. It is only when we stop, sit down, take a deep breath, look up at the sky, and realize that the clouds still drift beautifully. The wind still blows gently, and we are still alive, still breathing. That peace is present in this very moment. Happiness is not in what we possess, but in the awakened awareness to recognize the simple beauty present around us. A master once said, "Happiness is not a destination, but how we travel the path." If we walk with the burden of attachment, every path will feel arduous. But if we walk with a light heart, every step will be peaceful. A person who knows how to let go, forgive, live mindfully, know love and gratitude, wherever they go, becomes a paradise. Whatever moment they live transforms into happiness. You can imagine life as a garden. Letting go is clearing away fallen, dry leaves. Forgiveness is watering the roots of trees that once withered. Mindfulness is the sunlight that nourishes every flower. Love is the sweet stream flowing through the garden. And gratitude is the eyes that admire the beauty of every branch and leaf. When all converge, that garden becomes a realm of serenity, where we can sit, breathe, and feel our hearts at peace. Looking back, perhaps each of us has tasted suffering. Those are long, sleepless nights, moments of silent tears, fears and anxieties that cannot be named. But without those moments, would we cherish the peace of today? If we hadn't been battered by storms, would we appreciate the value of a quiet afternoon? Impermanence has taught us that suffering and happiness, loss and abundance, are all just pieces of life. When we learn to embrace both, without pushing away, without clinging, then we truly reach freedom in our souls. A serene life is not a life without difficulties, but a life that knows how to smile in the face of difficulties. It is not a life without loss, but a life that knows how to be grateful for what was once there. It is not a life without change, but a life that knows how to keep the heart still amidst change. Like the ocean, sometimes its waves churn, sometimes it is still as a mirror. But no matter what, the ocean is still the ocean, still vast and boundless. A serene mind is the same. It is not a mind without waves, but a mind broad enough to embrace both storms and peace. My dear friend, as you sit here listening to these words, perhaps your heart carries some pain. Perhaps you are worried about the future or regret the past. But please, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and listen to your breath. Realize that in this very moment, you are still alive. You still have the opportunity to love, to forgive, to let go, to be grateful. And if in this moment you choose peace, you have taken a step very close to a serene life. I hope that after this journey, whenever you encounter difficulties, you will remember to let go. Whenever your heart is heavy with resentment, you will remember to forgive. Whenever you are swept away by worries, you will return to mindfulness. Whenever you feel life is dry, you will refresh it with love. And whenever you are tired, you will lean on gratitude to find peace again. These are not just lessons, but keys that help open the door to true serenity. And finally, I wish you a sincere wish. May you, who are listening to these words, find strength from within your own soul. May you know how to let go of the burdens that have caused you suffering. May you know how to open your heart to forgive and liberate yourself. May you know how to return to the present with mindfulness. May you know how to live with a heart full of love and overflowing with gratitude. May you walk on the path of life with light steps, a tranquil soul, so that wherever you are, you can bloom a peaceful smile. A serene life is not a distant dream, but a choice made in every moment of living. As long as you choose to live with awakened awareness, you will find peace always within reach. And then you will understand that happiness is not far away, but is right here, right now.